National defense is on the table in this election. Canada reconsidering F-35 purchase. This is the Great White North Report. I'm in love with the system. Never going home. I'm in love. Now that the election's been called and all four major parties are on the campaign trail, national defense is something that usually is an afterthought during elections. Most Canadians just don't think of our national defense, which is a shame. But because of Trump's comments and belligerent stance, which is mainly a show, our news media is just hyping this up so badly, it ain't funny. I wish people would stop talking about it, but we can't. But we have issues of sovereignty. We have Chinese subs going under our Arctic Circle all the time. Our portion of the Arctic. The Russians usually fly planes over once in a while to let us know they're still there. But in an election cycle, national defense takes a back seat to the economy, healthcare, social programs, and the environment. And it's a shame because now our military is in such poor shape. We're right back where we were prior to World War I and World War II, where we didn't have much. So now with Trump's comments and threats, national defense is now on everyone's mind. Not that we have a hope of hell of ever defending ourselves from the Americans at this point. But like I said, they are not going to invade Canada. We would have to do something incredibly stupid like pull an October 7th before that happens, which I'm not recommending. That'd be ludicrous and suicidal. So what can be done is Canada reconsidering the F-35 purchase amid tensions with Washington, says Minister. Payment for the first 16 aircraft has already been made. So we've already paid for the first 16, which are due to be supplied this year. And we've ordered 88 of these things already. Now, do I think we should reconsider the purchase? No. There supposedly is a kill switch that the United States can pull to make sure it's not used against them or where they don't want to, like Ukraine. Trump is trying to get Putin to the negotiating table, and he has stopped its allies who have purchased the F-35 to not be able to use certain systems. I'm surprised these countries haven't tried to reverse engineer half these things. If the Chinese, Communist Party, or the Russians ever got their hands on an F-35, they'd reverse engineer it and make copies themselves. That's the biggest U.S. fear right now. Some other country's going to get there that they don't like is going to get their hands on one of these things, and they're going to reverse engineer it, and then the United States will have competition. I think we should go ahead and buy our 88 planes and then go for another plane. We should have two. We should not be just a single fighter country. We should have a mixed fleet. Bill Blair is now part of King Carney's new cabinet, as Minister of Defense has been talking about it. Just because Portugal is planning to ditch its acquisition. Mainly because Portugal probably can't afford it. It's not the cheapest thing out there. Portugal, when's the last time Portugal fought a war? Now, of course, once that happened, Jughead Singh says NDP would cancel the F-35 contract and build fighter jets in Canada. Good luck with that, Singh. I don't think he realizes just how much money it costs to cancel a contract. There's penalties and fees within a contract. If the manufacturer does not deliver on time, then they knock something off the price tag. If the country buying these things decides to cancel the contract, they pay a fine as well. When's the last time Canada built fighter jets? That means we have to go into race R&D and design everything ourselves. And that takes a lot of money, which the NDP are not willing to fork out. Not for defense. If anything, there are nuts in Singh's party who wants to scrap national defense altogether. Scrap the army altogether and just go with the police force. So they want to look for companies to build fighter jets in Canada. Singh does. That sounds all great and everything, but it's not going to happen. It's too costly and time consuming right now. We should be looking into R&D for the future, but for the immediate tomorrow, no, we need things now. We're still flying stuff that was designed in the 1980s. In fact, it was Stephen Harper who signed on to buy the F-35, and Canada invested in it. It was one of Trudeau's promises to cancel the F-35 contract. Because Canada at the time had already invested hundreds of millions of dollars on the development of the F-35, money that has allowed Canadian companies to participate in contracts related to the program. And Trudeau went and scrapped it. Even Mulcair, the NDP leader at the time, called Trudeau's move to exclude an option in the midst of a procurement process one of the most surprising things he'd heard the Liberal leader say so far. Total lack of experience. Guess what? Trudeau got in, he scrapped the F-35. We lost all that money. And it cost us over $313 million to pull out of the jet program. Probably more. We left out with 90 days notice, though we still need to pay the remaining fees that were committed. So what happened? We withdrew and paid little more than $300 million that we could have spent somewhere else. And we could have had these jets a lot cheaper than we were. So now they want to go back and scrap it. What are we going to pay now? $300 million in 2016 equals what today? Especially with a weak Canadian dollar. And I've seen a lot of comments saying we should go back to the Avro Arrow. The reason we scrapped the Avro Arrow, because intelligence at the time said there was a diminishing need for costly aircraft in the Cold War because the Soviets were going with ballistic missiles. Long-range ballistic missiles and interceptors like the Arrow would increasingly play a smaller role. Plus, there were some design flaws in the Avro Arrow. The delta wing formation wasn't all that great at the time, and we were having a hard time finding buyers. That's why we scrapped it. Pure and simple. It was very expensive. We should have kept with it, I think, but we couldn't find a buyer. And we should have maintained our own personal manufacturing in Canada with our airplanes, but it's also about how can you sell it. And we couldn't sell our own planes abroad, unfortunately. So I think the decision to scrap the F-35 is a dumb idea. Even though it's American built and it supposedly has a kill switch on it. I would keep it and then also go ahead and buy another fighter. Because when Trudeau scrapped the F-35 back in 2016, guess what? We had a long procurement process where you had to go and companies had to bid, and guess what we did? We came right back to the F-35. Trudeau wasted time and money, taxpayer money, to buy the same thing. Americans must be scratching their head at us because it is the best aircraft out there right now. Yes, there are other aircraft that come close and are probably cheaper, and we should go for some options. 88 of these things is not going to cover. I would also like to see us buy 24 to 48 other aircraft, and we're just delaying and kicking everything down the road again. Get them done, and let's have our jets. Buy some of these Swedish-built Saab Gripens, but keep the F-35s. That's what I'm saying. It's just going to be too much money to scrap it and go and do this all over again. What Trump's trying to do is also force us into getting up to our 2% of our NATO commitments, something we have not done. And Trudeau's been kicking the can down the road. Oh, we'll be ready by 2030. Why is it we have to do that when other countries can all of a sudden increase their defense spending at the drop of a hat? And Trump is pressuring us. Defense Minister accelerates 2% NATO spending timeline to 2027 amid pressure from Trump. Carney commits to 2% NATO spending benchmark by 2030. We can do it sooner, actually. Simply by scrapping foreign aid. And also cutting costs in our own bloated bureaucracy. We should be rearming simply because look at what's going on in Ukraine. Look what's going on in the Middle East. Look what's going on in the South China Sea. This is something that should have been done a long time ago. But to go back to the F-35, keep the F-35. The Americans are our allies, no matter how prickly the situation is, because I still prefer them than the Russians and the Chinese. But all you Canadians out there, let me know what you guys think. Do you think it's feasible to scrap the F-35 at this point and go with another fighter? Or should we just keep it and then go and buy some of the Gripens? Leave comments in the comment section. Until next time, this has been the Great White North Report.